So we're going to get started as people roll in. My name is Michael Wallace. I run customer success here at PlusPlus. I've been with the company really since its inception. And I'll be doing the little MC work today, but most of our time today is going to be spent with Ashley and Taylor from Salesforce, because that's what everyone's here to see, not here to see me. So our customer spotlight today is how Salesforce onboards new technical hires at scale, utilizing PlusPlus. So very excited to get started here. So as far as what we're going to be doing today, we're going to spend a very brief time on what is PlusPlus. Just want to make sure everyone has a little bit of frame of reference on the platform. But we'll be spending most of our time on Ashley and Taylor's part about technical onboarding. If you have questions, just shoot them into the little chat thing. We will answer them, I promise. Even if you have to jump early, we'll answer your questions, and then in the recording, you'll get to see them answered there. All right, so a little bit about PlusPlus. We're a platform, a SaaS platform that customers use to kind of unify their different learning experiences. This can be made up of things like live events, for your instructor-led trainings, your on-demand content. So that's everything, your Cloud Docs, your videos, your e-learnings, so SCORM type learnings, code labs, Confluence pages, wiki pages, you name it. Any sort of asynchronous or on-demand content, as we call it, can be housed in PlusPlus. And then of course your experts. So the people in your company that have that tacit knowledge locked in their noggins. We want to make sure that those people have a place to kind of stand up and be celebrated and share what they know. And that may be through live events. It may be through posting videos or their the blog pages or whatever it is that they want to share, or it could be through coaching or mentorship or office hours. There's lots of different avenues in which people can share their experience. And so that can be shared, independently, but where it gets really interesting is when you blend all of those together, right? And we call those tracks in the platform, or blended learning programs, if you want to get fancy. And those can take shape in a lot of different things. So that could be from onboarding, which we'll be talking about today. It could be leadership programs or new leader programs, or maybe even sort of like a longer learning arc of a certain technology that you want to promote. And so lots of different ways in which you can kind of blend these together for either, asynchronous long arc learning experiences, or even, cohorted experiences where people are going through it together over, a defined period of time. A little bit about PlusPlus and Salesforce. So Salesforce has been a customer of ours since 2017. They were actually customer number 1. So not a bad customer to start with. They've grown to about 13,000 annual unique users accessing the platform. And so that, averages out to about 2,000 monthly active users, over the course of a year, which means that, they aren't just coming here. While we're going to be focusing on technical onboarding, it's not the only thing that Salesforce uses us for, right? For onboarding, you typically go through it once and then you move on. So, having a platform where you can continue your skills trainings and other sorts of development is important for people to come back and continually use it. So anyways, we're focusing on onboarding today. So I'm going to hand this now over to Ashley and Taylor. They're on the new hire experience team, and I'll let them introduce themselves and kind of take you through the methodology and that they use and the program that they built in PlusPlus.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael. All right, I'm going to steal the share screen from you. Okay, awesome. All right, slides, you can see. Awesome. Great. Well, we're super excited to be here. So thanks so much for having us. I'll introduce myself really quick, and then Taylor, you can introduce yourself. My name is Ashley Austin. I'm a senior program manager here at Salesforce on the new hire experience team. I'm located in the Boston area, so on the East Coast, and it's snowing outside of my window today. I woke up to about 3 inches of snow, which was quite sad for me, though my two children were super pumped. And I have been at Salesforce for 5 years this June. My pronouns are she, her, and prior to being at Salesforce and in new hire onboarding, I have about 10 plus years in higher education, doing like orientation for students, which kind of led me into new hire experience, and then staff training, leadership development, and large scale event management. And my focus now is new hire experience, some product manager enablement efforts, and then also enablement in the generative AI space.
Cool. Thanks, Ashley. I'll go ahead and introduce myself next. So my name is Taylor Bodden. I'm a program manager on the same team as Ashley, so our organization's new hire experience team. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm located in the greater Seattle area. So not snowing, but definitely a little gray. So can't wait until the sun comes out here in Seattle because it's absolutely beautiful if you've ever seen it. Prior to this, I worked in corporate onboarding for over 4 years at a variety of different companies, including Google, Amazon, and now Salesforce, supporting different audiences, either in general onboarding, so company onboarding, executive onboarding, functional onboarding, and now engineering onboarding is my focus at Salesforce within our organization. So happy to be here and can't wait to dive in. All right, Ashley, next slide. So I will be kicking us off today and then transitioning to Ashley to close. We are going to do a little bit of level setting about our organization, some of the research we've done to get to this point when it comes to our content strategy, and then dive into one of our key problem areas or opportunities per se that PlusPlus has helped us to solve, and then what that looks like. So our team is a part of the technology and product organization at Salesforce, which primarily consists of engineering and product management roles on a global scale. Our organizational structure, if you look to the left of the slide, allows for or is structured so that there's cross collaboration between some engineering and product teams, as well as engineering product teams that are fully integrated within one function, so either technology or product. To support these teams and products we develop, we have specialized teams focused on technical writing, product accessibility, product design, agile development, and then our team, which is focused more on the learning event side for our specific organization. I think what's cool and sets our team apart and why I wanted to come work on this team is because it's a functional onboarding team that new hires engage with after completing Salesforce's global onboarding, which allows us to provide more organization-specific, team-specific, and role-specific training. We operate globally with regional hubs in San Francisco, Seattle, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Tel Aviv, among others. And our company's growth over the past couple of decades has led to a new hire composition that is external hires as well as mergers and acquisitions, which I think is quite unique to Salesforce due to the quantity of folks that we've brought in through that process over the years. And then contractual conversions, either from interns going through our intern programs or contractors converting to full-time. So quite a common population, I would say, with onboarding teams, but one that we definitely, I'll speak for myself, but I'll say I love working with here at Salesforce. While a majority of our organization is made up of engineering product, which the engineering population composes of roughly 80%, so that's why we're so focused on technical new hires, there are other roles that are critical to our business. So that includes product managers, which is a huge population of that as well, program managers, security roles, tech writers, UI and UX, and then research and insights. So that's essentially the composition of our organization. And we support those roles as well, not just engineering, but that's what we'll be focusing on today. Okay, next slide, Ashley. So probably as many of you have observed this within your own companies, industry onboarding practices have been evolving over the past few years, maybe a decade, towards approaches that are more customer-centric, so less general, more personalized, productivity focused. That's a big one for our company this year, and then technology-driven with AI and other platforms like PlusPlus that are enabling more asynchronous or online options when it comes to onboarding to be able to scale. Today's customer, for us at least in our space, is really demanding these 3 buckets. And so that's what we've been focused on last year as well as this year, and identifying how to leverage PlusPlus to be able to enable this. and ensure that we can tackle each of these buckets when it comes to our delivery approach. Next slide, Ashley. So when it came to diving into research and identifying how to address those buckets as it relates to the customer-centric focus, we've essentially identified 6 areas, which probably see some common just industry terms, but for us to really hone in on and provide more content around these different buckets. So our new hires are looking for more role clarity, whether it's in an engineering or product management or even program management role, more targeted training. So resources and information that support the knowledge and skills specific to those roles and that guidance. Also more culture and belonging. That's a big one that's come up. So taking a look at the changes in Salesforce's culture and what it looks at the organization level and being able to provide more guidance and support and resources in that space. More support and mentorship. So what happens during the onboarding journey from a hiring manager support process, but also the after piece. More relationship building. So from a productivity lens, how can we get new hires into early conversations, either on project teams, scrum teams, within the work that's taking place to be able to deliver high quality sooner? And then more feedback and communication around that, whether it be from the hiring managers, their leadership, what our annual strategy, whatever that might be, just seeing if we can enable our managers and new hires to do more of that. So this information has been instrumental in shaping our content strategy and identifying what gaps we might have to be able to support in these areas and then build net new or update what we have existing. Next slide, Ashley. Cool, thank you. In addition to refining our content strategy this year for our technical new hires, we identified an even greater opportunity in the operations and delivery aspect of our new hire journeys. And I have a feeling this is not unique to our company, but this is something that we are really trying to figure out to create a better story for our new hires and a journey as they continue through our programs, as well as access different platforms and tooling. So one of the big things that we found at Salesforce is that our new hires receive a lot of different information from a lot of different sources. So right now, 9+ sources prior to the PlusPlus component here. And then furthermore, as I mentioned, we are a functional onboarding team. And so they go through general onboarding before us. So trying to figure out how to connect that dotted line essentially to ensure it's a smooth and seamless transition from general to our functional onboarding and then the continuation of our functional onboarding program. So those are big areas and a focus for us this year. As it relates to leveraging PlusPlus tracks to improve navigation and then the guidance there. All right, next, Ashley. Awesome. So what does that actually look like and how do we take the content strategy and then our goals when it comes to delivery, navigation, organization, and operations? Is we utilize the tracks feature, as Michael mentioned, to be able to deliver new hire tracks in January 2024. So this is a fairly new program design and delivery strategy. So we're still testing some of the pieces. So if you have questions around feedback, we're still gathering that, which is great. The goal of this was really to empower our new hires by streamlining their training, resources, making sure we have that role clarification, providing career plans within that scope based on those asks, and then ideally driving the boost in productivity, which is then all in one spot within PlusPlus. So we really created these tracks as wanting them to be a single source of truth. Also having a structured track timeline, so progressive 7 phases over 3 months to be able to include various content guidance and structure. So it's not just a ginormous list of a bunch of stuff that isn't organized. It's structured in that way. The second piece is really making sure it is comprehensive and holistic. As I mentioned, we did that research and trying to fill those gaps as it relates to content. And then the fourth piece here is the role specific personalization. That has been a major ask from our business around how better to support specifically engineers or specifically product managers and other roles. And so really honing in and partnering cross-functionally with other teams to be able to identify that content and then roll it up into our content structure and strategy, which is the next slide, which I will show you at a high level. Sweet. So one of the key components I called out on the last slide was that structured timeline. This is designed over 7 phases. spread over 3 months in current state, hoping to expand in the future pending feedback, and then aimed at gradually distributing information to minimize some of that cognitive load, especially when we have a global onboarding team that's also providing information. The way that it's structured, as mentioned, is those 7 phases. So we're really focused on introduction, which is that global onboarding component. Phase 2 is our organizational overview and what that looks like. So introducing new hires to our organization, products and services, team dynamics, et cetera, as well as mandatory programs that are required of them. So our organization specific onboarding program. And I see a couple of questions and I will pause. I'm happy to answer those in the Q&A, or I can tackle them now, but I think we'll just keep moving through. And if you could hold on the questions, we'll make sure to loop back around for the Q&A if that works. So thank you for asking those in chat. The third piece is role specific training. So again, we have a couple of mandatory programs. So that's where the tracks kind of split off when it comes to engineering, product, and other roles. And then moving through the rest, productivity foundations, providing information there on allowing folks to get to know other people and any resources they can use to be more productive. Culture and innovation. Innovation is a big component and value at Salesforce. So trying to provide opportunities for our technical new hires to participate in different innovative events and activities. The 6th one is career planning. So just looking at individual development plans, how best to support them and foster career growth as they continue their journey. And the last is just our conclusion piece. So what went well with the experience and any further resources. And then with that, happy to answer questions about that in the future at the end of this in the Q&A. So thank you again for asking. I am going to now hand it over to Ashley, who will discuss the role-specific personalizations, operations, as well as walking through a brief demo. So thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Taylor. So we have about 84% of our new hires, like Taylor talked about, are engineers and developers. So that is one of our main personas that we have a track for. And then about 10% of our new hires are going through what we kind of refer to as a generalized track. And that's just because the majority of these positions don't have enough they didn't have enough of a business need at the time or enough content built to have their own individual track just yet. The roadmap in the future is to have individual tracks for some of these personas. And we've kind of already started working with some of those stakeholders to build them out. Once we launched tracks, everyone was like, oh, well, where's my track? Where's my track? So that's definitely in the works. So some of those include user experience, technical writers, researchers, data scientists, TPMs. So that's kind of 10% of our new hires. And then the next largest group is about 6% of our new hires are product managers. And we have some role specific content in there for PMs. So on addressing regional needs on the outside to our stakeholders, we have 3 tracks because that's our what we want our stakeholders to see. But on the back end, you actually see that we have 6 tracks because we're delivering the same content in a different delivery method. So in Australia, Singapore, and Israel, those new hires are getting some of the same exact content just in an asynchronous method because we don't have live content being delivered in those regions based off of just where our team is located. So on the back end, when you go into our instance of PlusPlus, you'll see a lot of tracks that look exactly the same, but we have a couple of different components because of the delivery method. And that's where we come into maximizing the automations and the integrations, where we really focused on removing manual tasks, minimizing human error, mostly my human error at times, and then utilizing Slack, which is, if you don't know, the hub of where all of our work takes place at Salesforce and at a lot of companies. So we're utilizing people segments and various filtering options to save hours of manual tasks of, getting assignments done in all 6 of those tracks. Previously, I was using various Google Sheets to go through and filter every single option of what roles were included, what regions they were in, what business units needed to be filtered out, what leaders needed to be filtered out, what roles were included in each segment and then manually uploading those. Now with the people segments, I'm able to just set those filters in the people segments and then go into our automated rules, get those set up to automatically assign those to the correct tracks. And that has been a massive, massive time save that has probably taken, I don't know, 6 hours a week off of my manual tasks. To be honest, maybe even more, because if I make one mistake, I have to go back and fix it. And then we are really harnessing the power of Slack, where we're notifying new hires in the hub of their day-to-day work. I have a bad habit now, I think, of maybe checking my email once or twice a week because I'm never in my email anymore. I am just in Slack. Tomomi will probably notice that when she emailed me about doing this talk. She's like, girl, where are you? I emailed you. And I was like, oh my God, please Slack me because I am not in my email anymore. And she's like, oh my God, that's great. Actually, I can just Slack you about this. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting right back to you. So we're utilizing the automatic reminders in the tracks to be like, hey, go back into your track, make sure that you are completing your requirements. It also CCs their manager so that they know what their new hires are getting when they're getting it and what their requirements are. So that has been a huge win for us as a team, for our new hires to be able to just check their Slack message and say, oh, I have to go and take this requirement, or just a reminder like, hey, did you want to join this Slack channel? And they can go right into Slack and do that. So here's a typical use case for us, and just a day in the life of a new hire at Salesforce and TMP. So this is Alex. She's a new developer. She came in and wanted clear role definitions, some targeted training, and a one-stop shop. Didn't want to be sent to a different website, sent to a different trainings, go talk to this person about that. She really wants a culture of belonging and some supportive mentorship. So when Alex joins, she gets her general Salesforce orientation and has some completed requirement items in her track to complete. And then she'll come through my program and do some completed requirements. She'll go through her hands-on engineering onboarding that Taylor heads up and do some fundamentals of coding at Salesforce. And then she'll go through and do some optional items. So you'll notice here on the slide, she's interested in learning agile methodologies. She's interested in networking and some career planning. So in the track, you can have required items. And what I really like is you can also have optional items. So we have required items that they need to for, compliance requirements that all new hires need to take in order to complete their journey. But we also wanted to offer some optional items to say, hey, if you're really interested in this, go ahead and take some additional trainings, or go to a social event, join some Slack groups if you're interested in innovation. If you're interested in this career planning resource, it's here for you, just to kind of give them the opportunity to explore more if they're there. So we have all these really cool optional items that are in the tracks based off of which phase they're in. So like I said, Alex is interested in agile, local networking, and career planning. So she's going to attend some coffee chats, do some agile training, go to the regional hub events, and then take some career planning resources there. So this is kind of like what a typical day in the life of a engineering new hire looks like. And then I will open it up my demo screen. Can you see the track here? Did it share this one? Okay, great. So this is kind of just like a dummy template of what our track looks like when you're in our instance of PlusPlus. It brings them right to the front page where all of our tracks are branded with like a specific style. And then we have a long form description of everything that they're going to go through. And then a summary of each phase, all of the actions that they're going to need to do. And then what I think is really important is we had a template for every single item that also offers like how they're going to get support in each phase and each item. So some of the items in our tracks are not owned by our team. So we wanted to make sure, hey, if you need support in this item, you got to go talk to this person if we're not the right people. But so this item, for instance, is how to get credit for coming through my program. So this is one item where they can go through, read exactly what they need to do to get attendance credit. And then I like this one because they have to mark it as complete instead of just automatically clicking through. So they would go ahead and mark that as complete. The other thing I really like about the items here is they get to rate the options, and then we can run reports to see how they're rating each item in the track, so we can get really good feedback from those. And then they can go through to the next phase as they're done each section and keep going through. And then all of the modules we have for eLearns are in here as they're continuing on through their tracks. So because this is like a dummy track, it doesn't have everything we have in there, but just kind of wanted to give you a look-see at kind of what the feel is from the user's endpoint. But yeah, that is what we have. And then we can kind of move through to a Q&A.
All right. So let's see. Let's go back to the top here on some questions. Let me see if I can find them. I think there's an initial question of what metrics do you use to track success of your program? And it looks like there was an initial answer of enrollment, completion, and just productivity. Was there anything you wanted to add to that as far as metrics, success metrics for your program?
Yeah, on specifically my program, Welcome to TMP, I have metrics for each e-learning module that they take, and we do a CSAT for every single module, 1 to 10, and then we have an engagement score of 1 to 10 on how engaging they felt the content was. I also have them do the form is embedded inside of the eLearn as a Google form, and I've gotten the most feedback from it having it being embedded right at the end of the e-learning module than I've ever gotten before on feedback forms, which I didn't anticipate having that much, but I get over 1,000 responses a quarter, which is pretty crazy. And they write in their biggest takeaways, so I can make sure that it's hitting the learning objectives. And if majority of those responses are hitting the learning objectives that we set out, I'm like, okay, we're on the right track. And so I've been kind of measuring the success of the e-learning modules that way, which has been really great.
Cool. When you were going through kind of the different phases that a learner goes through, is that something that they're aware of, or are they sort of blind to the phases? They're just kind of cruising through it, but you have it sort of signposted for yourself for organization. Like, what's the awareness for the learner?
You want me to take this one, Ashley?
Sure.
Cool. So maybe if you're able to see it in the demo, I think it said like getting started, TMP overview, and then wrap up. So we have all of the phases laid out. So when they go to the homepage for the track themselves, they can see all of them. And then there's like duration guidance, who should be involved, as well as like what the purpose of that phase is, and then the content items listed below. We also provide, as one of the initial tasks, is like an overview of the phases essentially. And so another, like a second touch point there. And then a third piece would be through our notifications that are within the tracks as well, speaking to them and then reminding them to continue to progress through. And then also partnering with our global onboarding, I guess the fourth touch point would be providing some information there.
Got it. Cool. Do the rules come from an HRIS or something else?
Oh, yeah, we recently integrated with Workday, and that has saved my life. So we integrated with Workday, and then all of that API data on the back end with PlusPlus took a lot of work, but it was the best.
Yeah. So, and Leslie, I can answer this a little bit just on the PlusPlus side. So PlusPlus integrates not and Workday tends to be the most widely used HRIS, but it could be SuccessFactors. It could, there's other systems out there. And so either through an API or a CSV, you can get information into user information into PlusPlus through an automated integration, and you can send us really any sort of information you want as far as like how you organize your users in your HR system. That can be brought into PlusPlus, and then it allows for the Ashleys and Taylors of the world to kind of cut up those audiences into user groups that would you could either restrict content to. So let's say you have manager trainings that you just want managers to only have access to. You can restrict those trainings based on here are the managers in my company and only they get access to this. Or hey, I have a whole bunch of new hires coming in, so I can look at their hire date, and then I can create a sort of an evergreen audience of here are the new hires within a 15-day window of plus or minus their hire date. And so when PlusPlus sees them from, say, Workday, it can automatically enroll them into a track or into an event or assign them to an e-learning or whatever it is that you have. We can automate that. We just need to link to your HR system, or in the case of some other customers, it's through Skim, which is a sort of protocol that you can use with Okta. So, anyways, moving on. How do you enforce the required items?
This is my favorite thing to do at the end of every quarter. Basically, we have quarterly metrics that we have to run, and I have to run a report of who has not done said required items. And then I email them and say, hey, you have to do said required items by this date, or you and your manager are going to be notified that you have to do it by this date. It is a metric on XYZ leaders. We call it a V2 mom, which Benji, I'm sure you're familiar with, but the rest of you are likely not. It's how Salesforce, does our yearly planning. And those folks are like, oh, it's on our top leaders V2 mom, I need to do it. So then they pretty much go and do it. And the Learn PlusPlus track will send them reminders throughout the track saying, hey, don't forget, this is a required item, go in and do this. So hopefully it's not out of the blue that they're receiving this. It's either their second, third reminder that it's due, especially for our required programming. The other items in the track that are required, like what would be an example of one of those items, Taylor? Like a feedback survey or
feedback surveys. Feedback surveys, enrolling in the mandatory programs, as well as like manager check-ins.
Yeah, those items, they can do those really quickly. So it's not as time consuming as like enrolling and then in taking one of our longer programs. So when it's a program enrollment, we got to get on them and say, hey, there's one of these left this month. You got to go do it now.
Yeah, some of those emails you can CC managers on them. So let's say it's a third reminder, and they're overdue on something or haven't completed yet. You can even CC the manager, so the manager gets looped into that conversation. And then in PlusPlus, managers also have a portal that they can see like what their directs are going through, and so if they're a new hire track, they can even view and be like, oh, they're 87% of the way through. They haven't yet completed this, or they have completed these. Great. So we try to loop in managers as much as possible. Just to make it a little bit more in line with their work. So who leads career pairing conversations, expectations, opportunities? It sounds like it's a TD thing. If so, are the employee leaders notified of the outcomes automatically? How do they know something is completed?
That's a good question. Do you want I can start a little bit on like how it's structured with us. Our focus within that phase of the track is more enabling hiring managers. Enabling new hires to know some of the core processes and performance related steps that are taken, whether or not it be check-ins or individual development plans, how they work and how to write them, V2 moms, whatever it might be. And providing like the what and the how, and then certain asks for them to meet with their manager and or have those conversations. But this is a new piece of this function and people are still going through it as a part of our pilot. So gonna see how that plays out. But Ashley, is there anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, I would say like that part of the phase is really just giving them the resources that like our talent experience team has. So it's going to the talent experience website, viewing the V2 Mom expectations and making sure that they know the deadlines that are set forth by talent experience. And then I see that how do they know something is complete? So in the track, it'll say like, this is complete, and it kind of like, marks it as green, and there's like a big check mark in there. And then there's also like a percentage complete that they can see, like, and it marks their progress as they're going through. And so it'll say, you're 20% complete, 40%, 60%, and it kind of follows them throughout their journey.
How did you decide to use a Google form versus PlusPlus survey?
The Google form I was referring to specifically inside of the e-learning module, which I build within Articulate 360. So it's just the one that I can embed directly into Rise. So that's just directly in the platform that I use there.
Keeping new hires engaged and onboarding can be a challenging job. Do you find onboarding participants have trouble balancing their onboarding and job commitments? If so, how does your onboarding program address this challenge?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's why, like, you'll notice at the end of the phases, it really becomes more optional than required items, and it becomes a lot of asynchronous programs rather than this is a live learning opportunity. And I think it becomes more of the things that people are really excited and intent and like enticed by, like it's the innovation opportunities, it's the culture, and like it's our more exciting programs that are put there, and it's more of the things that they will option into instead of required into. Yeah, do you have any thoughts there, Taylor?
I think what you said is great. I think the other piece too is pulling that data once we get further into this year and seeing what optional ones folks have decided to do. We can also maybe more effectively provide guidance. So for example, a lot of our technical roles, like a lot of companies, have a certain release planning and very busy weeks at the beginning or the end of those timeframes. So as we get into it, if there are certain events, for example, that we've offered that people are stoked about but can't attend, then we might be able to provide a little bit more guidance around like before release planning, we recommend you take this, or at pause, and after release planning, it's okay if you're not operating specifically with the week of phase, but we recommend taking it there. So I think as we go further down this journey, we'll be able to pull more data on those interests and then maybe provide a little bit more guidance in support of like balancing the workload as a new hire and then expectations of their teams to jump right in and do stuff.
Though I think you may have answered this kind of, but you personally send direct messages to new hires and they haven't completed items. Yeah, no.
Yeah, not Slack DMs. I wish I could do like what is it, like a mail merge DM, Slack DM. I wish I could figure that out. But that's sadly an email that goes out. Yep.
Maybe Benji can help you there if that exists in Slack. Benji works for Slack, everyone, in case you didn't know. From Leslie, what happens after the first 90 days to continue engagement?
Yeah, one of the last like items in the track, and something that we're thinking to add to the end of the track is something like, what now? What next? And there's one that we're building out is like a further learning, go here, do the rest. Now that they've been in the track for 90 days, they're so well versed in using PlusPlus that we send them to the rest of our technical catalog, where there's tons and tons of other learning opportunities. And we've already, throughout the track, have introduced them to our Slack channels, where we announce the rest of our technical catalog and the rest of our leadership development programs that all exist in PlusPlus. So we kind of like keep them going by having already announced all the other programs that they can get involved in.
Any other questions? Are you using this platform as part of IDPs, PIPs, etc.?
I'm not a people manager, so I'm not sure if people do that. That would be really interesting. But yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, I can't answer that.
I believe that Salesforce IDPs are all in. There you go. Looks like Benji came in with a rescue. There you go. All right. That's something we can talk about later, I guess. All right. So are there other L&D teams also using PlusPlus, for example, leadership development?
We have a bunch of L&D teams like underneath our like PlusPlus instance. Like a lot of like our team specifically is like underneath a larger L&D team that serves all of TMP. So we have a leadership development team. Our technical catalog team is under us. We've like a change management team, and then yeah, Slack engineering uses PlusPlus, and then we have a bunch of like cloud enablement teams that are under our PlusPlus instance. So like I work really closely with some of our cloud onboarding teams, and they do specific cloud onboarding. Like our platform engineering team will do their own thing. Yeah, so we have a ton of teams that are also building on PlusPlus. So it's not just our onboarding team, is not just our leadership development team. It's like all these other teams that are specific to their function are also producing content. Oh, I see our friend Donna here is on our Agile team. Our Agile team also produces all of their learning content. So yeah, we have a ton of learning teams underneath our organization that produces a ton of content, events, asynchronous content, courses, all sorts of things.
From Leslie, are you using PlusPlus for mentorship / coaching? Curious if onboarding buddies would be able to see the completions as well. Thanks for answering all my questions. Thanks for all your questions.
Yeah, no problem, Leslie. We haven't utilized the mentorship portion yet. I just actually sunset a mentorship program that I was running, but if I didn't have to sunset it this quarter, I was going to look into utilizing the mentorship platform. But I didn't have the need to look into it this quarter yet. But yeah, Taylor, did you have something to add? You looked like you were ready to chat.
I was just gonna say I've seen the feature. I think definitely some more discovery if it's something that could be leveraged, and like what the management like upkeep would be, just bandwidth wise of team. But I think that the onboarding buddy piece could be interesting there, since there is the manager portal and then like the user portal essentially are the main pieces there. To what would that look like in the future? So that's a good question. Something definitely to noodle on, I guess.
Last question. All right. Are you trying? I'm not going to hold you to it, Leslie. Don't worry. Are you trying to career pathing to open positions in the organization as well? Are you tying the career pathing to open positions in the organization at this time?
The like career path information, like we link in like what the career leveling guide is and stuff, but nothing actually like goes into what is open, just based on how internal transfers and stuff is sort of evolving in the organization. And we have a couple of programs that address that specifically, so it's not something we've touched yet.
All right. Still okay on time. But we can, doesn't seem like any more questions are coming in. So I'll just wrap this up and give people some time back. Thank you, Ashley and Taylor for your time. Coming up on April 25th, we're going to be doing another talk around onboarding. This time with the team from Splunk. So Gail and Rajan will be taking you through how they do effective technical onboarding over for Splunk Engineering. So stay tuned for that. We may, Tommy may share a link for that in the chat, but we'll definitely follow up with an email if you're interested in hearing from the folks over there. And then finally, any more questions? Want a personalized demo for PlusPlus for your use case, or heck, maybe even want to meet and talk with Ashley and Taylor? I'd be happy to facilitate whatever conversation or direction you need to go. You can email me at michael@plusplus.co. And yeah, have a great day, everyone. Thank you.